Hello, everybody. I'm so pleased to be with you today. Again, as Carol mentioned, my name is Tracy Cluse. I'm the Senior Design Manager for Tarkett, which is a flooring company, both commercial and residential applications. I started my design career working as a residential designer, doing mostly kitchen and bath design. And then I joined KraftMaid Cabinetry, a division of Masco, and I was with KraftMaid for 14 years, and I was responsible for pretty much every facet of design that you can think of at one time or another. From one point we did trade show booth design, display design for a lot of our larger retailers, and then I moved into a design management role where I controlled photography and really the overall look of the brand. And for the last 5 years of my career with KraftMaid, I moved into a product development role where the team that I worked with, we did all the finish development, door style development, SKU development, really anything that had to do with new products passed through our team. Now that I've joined Tarkett, it's very much a wide open role in the sense that we handle new products, we handle photography, we really do, our team touches every facet of the product from conception all the way through product launch and then beyond. So this PowerPoint was really based on my journey of trying to capture trends and understanding trends as they relate to new product and design. So this is really something that I put together. And as we go through, I really encourage you, if you want to ask questions, please feel free. But this is really about kind of giving you ideas about how you're going to approach your own path to trend tracking and trend development. And so I really want you to take this as really a baseline and then develop your own way of tracking trends as it relates to your specific skill set and who you're working with and what products you're working with. So this really relates to both manufacturers dealing with retailers and your manufacturing customers, but this also relates to if you're a retailer working in a showroom and you're dealing with end consumers, this process can really be adapted to both ways. So, and I'll try to give you a little bit of both flavors as we go through this PowerPoint. Okay, so here we go. So first of all, we're just going to do a quick overview. Really, again, this is my path of tracking trends, and it needs to be personalized a little bit for your own needs. And this can fit you regardless of your background and regardless of who you're working with. So we're going to go through what are trends, why tracking trends are important, identifying your key influencers, and then how to use this data. That's probably the most important piece. And then the selling of design. And we'll get into that just in a couple minutes. First of all, what is a trend? Really, a trend is defined as really a general direction in which something is developing or changing. So it's a movement or a shift. So as we talk about trends, it's normally not something it's not a huge shift. You normally see these gentle kind of gradations and gentle curves that ultimately result in a large trend shift. But normally that doesn't happen overnight. So it's also defined as something that alters the human landscape. So think of things that alter the way we live, the way we communicate, and the way we think. Those can all be defined as trends. So first we're going to look at trend. What are the drivers? The drivers are the constants. They're the big picture elements that are really the core of the way we live our lives and the way we think of our day-to-day. So they're the economy, they're politics, environmental issues, religion, global events, and then one of our biggest that we see today, technology. So then we go on to the macro trends. The macros are the big buckets that affect more of the human factor. They're like the pop culture, the lifestyle changes, human behaviors. We can also bucket demographics, which is statistical data that relates to population, and ethnography, the study of human race and culture, we can bucket those two things also in with macro trends. Next, we go on to the micro trends. Now, the micros are more of the specifics. So that's color, material, products. Those are you're diving into the detail there. You can think about, one of the easiest way to think about a trend is when you look at a funnel. So you have your big drivers at the top. That's where your most of your data is. Then you're going to funnel down into the macro. And then when you get into the micro, that's the detail that relates to you and your product specifically. So let's think about some of the different examples of that trend funnel. So maybe it's when the housing bubble burst. That was due to the economy. That was your driver. Your housing bubble bursting was your macro. And then when you think about how it changed the way we feel about our homes as an investment, and then your micro is how it affected us as designers and salespeople. So that kind of gives you your funnel. Another example of your trend funnel, think about politics as your driver. And then your macro is right now with the election year, and you're seeing all the debates going on TV. And now you're feeling that the economy is pulling back a little bit. You're hearing people talking about jitters, about spending. Well, that's going to now think about your micro, how that's going to affect us in design, how it's going to affect the way we design, how it's going to affect the way our customers are purchasing our products and purchasing our services. So that's a good way to think about it. The next thing, kind of differentiating what is a trend and what is a fad. So, and I use the example of planking. So a fad is really something that's short-lived. It's short-lived. It comes in and out very quickly. It'll typically last a season and fade just as quickly as it appears. So think about planking on social media. That kind of popped up on social media between 2011 and 2012, and you saw all these people taking photos of them, kind of in this prone position, and it lasted about a season, and then it was gone. And then think about our selfie trend on social media. Now selfies have become mainstream. You're seeing products like selfie sticks and other things to support this trend. So that one has definitely become a trend and moved to the mainstream, where planking was something that lasted maybe a season and it was gone. So that doesn't mean that we should ignore fads. As we track trends, we still need to keep track of them, but it's something that we need to watch and not immediately react to. So the next thing we're going to talk about is why trend tracking is important. So a couple reasons why it's important for us to track trends. It's really going to make you an expert in your field. And as you look at design, it's always changing. So it's something that never stays stagnant. So we need to make sure that we're kind of on top of what is that next thing? What's that next new thing that is happening? And it's also going to help us increase our sales dollars, because that way it solidifies us as being the expert and also being in the know of what's going on in our field. So a little example, in my early days of product development, when I was at KraftMaid, we had a new CEO that joined the company, and very often when we were developing products, our product managers would just take my word for what colors were coming that were new. So we were giving a presentation to our new CEO and talking about the new finishes that we were going to launch. And he said, well, why this new brown? Why are we launching this new brown color? In his eyes, it just looked like another brown. And the product manager pointed to me and said, well, because that's what Tracy told me to do. And he looked at me, and I kind of had that deer in the headlights look, and he told me it cost our company $1 million to launch a finish. And we are not going to launch a finish, although I know that you're very skilled in your field. We're not going to launch a new finish just because you said so. And that was a real eye-opener to me. So he told me that we really need to have supporting data that is going to support our product path and our decision. And he said he wanted a mix of qualitative and quantitative data that would support our path on this new brown product story. So the first thing I did was run back to my desk and Google qualitative and quantitative. So when we talk about quantitative data, quantitative is the type of data that deals with numbers that can be measured. So it informs us about quantities. So like an example of quantitative data would be like the age of your car, the number of pennies in your pocket. So it's something that can be measured. So for quantitative data, I would say it's really best for you to either do surveys. SurveyMonkey is a product that we use online pretty readily. We use it both when I was with Masco at KraftMaid, and also now that I'm with Tarkett. It's a really easy way to put together a survey. You can also do surveys in person. One of the things that we did in trying to capture quantitative data is we printed out fake money. We had a customer event not too long ago, and we printed out fake money. We gave each customer $100, a mix of 10s, 5s, and 1s, and told them if this was their money and they had to pick products that they were willing to launch into their retail showroom, and we had a myriad of probably 20 products, and we asked them to actually put their money on the products that they felt would perform the best in their retail location. And then we went through and counted up the money of what products got the most monetary, the most money. And that was really an easy way for us to do an in-person survey to capture what products we felt were going to perform the best. So as I said, SurveyMonkey is another great one that we use. The only thing about surveys is you want to make sure that you set your quantitative parameters very clearly. So if you want to do a survey of designers, make sure that you set your parameters to designers with X amount of experience, or designers that design for design homes that are between X amount of dollars and and X. So making sure that you know where your data is coming from. So like we did a survey not too long ago that we targeted designers that were on the commercial side of the business that had at least 15 years of experience and worked on projects that were between $50,000 to $150,000. So that set our parameters pretty tight, and we were able to, you can quantify the data a little bit better that way. So next we're going to move on to our qualitative data. Qualitative data, that's a little bit more, it's a little harder to track, but this is more about making observations, gathering opinions and insights. So qualitative is more about information that's difficult to measure. So an example would be the softness of a cat or the color of the sky. If you ask a designer what color the sky is, you're probably going to get just that many answers. Everybody's going to have a slightly different take on how blue or how gray the sky is going to be on a given day. So the good thing about the qualitative data is it allows you to capture people's thoughts in their own words, and that's what's really important. So make sure that you write down direct quotes, you observe people's body language as you speak to them. Gathering qualitative data is actually the most fun, in my opinion, and think about just the people that you work with. Think about your peers. Here at Tarkett, I often poll employees when I'm working on a new design or a new color. When you think about it, we are all consumers. We all buy goods and services on a daily basis. So, why not make the most of your peers and the people that you work with? So I'll often set out, maybe 3 or 4 designs, and I'll bring up a group of people. Sometimes I'll call it a lunch and learn. We'll bring in lunch, and I'll, gather opinions And that really helps me as we go to launch product, to make sure that we're kind of moving down the right path and getting the right colors, the right designs that are going to work for today's consumers. So next we're going to talk about where we track trends. So the first thing about trends is it's really, you should always be looking, be on the lookout, always keeping your eyes on emerging trends. So subtle shifts in what exists in your market today. So a lot of the really true trends have longevity, but you may see a lot of different iterations of that trend along the way. Now I'm going to give you an example. If you think back in 2008, we started to track an emerging trend, and people were calling it steampunk. And it was very kind of sci-fi, Jules Verne. At the time, it felt very out there. In fact, when I was at Craftmate, I remember presenting this trend to our executive staff, and they looked at our team like we had three heads, like they had no idea what we were talking about. Well, again, that was when the trend was emerging. But when you think about how that trend has evolved over the past 8 years, we moved from steampunk in 2008, and then over the course between 2009 and 2012, it became the industrial trend, which we all know now has been huge. And now we're seeing industrial slowly shift to this authentic trend, which is still the use of natural materials, natural woods, metals, but it's not as heavily industrial as it was in its peak, in its heyday. So we're still seeing that original steampunk trend that was emerging in 2008. When you think about it, it's still hanging on today in 2016, but it's gone through different iterations. And you can still see glimpses of that initial trend, but now it's developed its own life cycle. So when we talk about tracking trends, one of the biggest places to look is, of course, the media. Now, right now, I'm speaking mainly about those drivers. So think about where do you hear your news? Where do you capture your day-to-day data? So it could be blogs. It could be, like, I love NPR. I listen to NPR quite a bit during my commute. I listen to a lot of social media, and I follow a lot of social media, pop culture, and really those big global events. Like one of the trends that I was tracking for 2016 is the Olympics. So we're seeing a lot of those kind of hot, spicy colors for the Olympics, but now we're seeing that pull back ever so slightly because of the Zika virus. So one of the things that you should always ask yourself is how, when you hear just general, everyday, noteworthy news, how is this going to affect design? How is this going to affect color? And that's something that you should kind of always be asking yourself. The next thing we're going to talk about is vendor partners. Think about how often we rely on really our industry friends to help us out with trends, with product ideas, with inspiration. We really glean a lot of inspiration off each other. So whether if you're in a showroom setting, think about products that you don't currently sell, or think about your manufacturer's reps. So your manufacturer sales reps help you with what trends they're seeing? Rely on them to help you connect those dots a little bit. So these are some of the vendor partners that I normally track and reach out to. So the other place that I love to track trends is at trade shows. So trade shows are really a great way to see what's going on really quickly. So think about trade shows that are inside your industry. We just got back from the Surfaces show not too long ago in conjunction with Surfaces. We had the International Builder Show. We had the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show. Another place that we track quite a bit is Furniture Market. So think about those trade shows that are inside your industry that you can visit. Next, I would encourage you to think about trends that are outside your industry. So that's a little bit more of an obscure path, but you'd be surprised in what you see at trends that may not be in your specific industry. So one of the ones that I like to track, we go to the Cooking and Houseware Show, which is similar to being in our industry. I always track fashion. Fashion Week not too long ago. You'll notice that when I first started in the industry, fashion and home fashion were about 2 seasons apart. So it would roughly take 18 to 24 months, and you would see the colors that were going on in home fashion emerge into your interior fashion. Where we're seeing now that fashion and home fashion are almost concurrent. There's really no lag there. So it's interesting to see some of the details and the textures and the iterations that are going on in fashion, and see how they become translated into home fashion. So what I would encourage you to do, though, is when you're looking at trade shows outside your industry, pick trade shows that interest you personally, because that makes attending them and understanding how they relate to your industry so much more fun and so much more informative. Like one of the ones that I picked was automotive. So we attend every year. I attend North American Auto Show because I'm just really interested and grew up in a family of cars. So it was something that always interested me. The other thing that why I chose automotive is it had a similar product track and life cycle to flooring materials. So most people retain a car after they purchase it between 7 and 11 years is what the Automotive Institute is kind of tracking right now. That's how long the average life cycle that people own a car. Well, it's the same thing with flooring. So normally people change their flooring every 7 to 11 years. So it's a very similar product evolution. So that was another reason why I chose to track automotive. So again, pick things that are of interest to you, and then try to connect those dots of how they relate to your industry in particular. The other one that's a great one, the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, that's something that really we should all be tracking, just because technology is affecting really all of us, the way we live, the way we work, the way we do our business on a day-to-day basis. And lastly, try your own local shows. Those are really important to see what's going on in your specific market. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about outside agencies. These are mostly paid agencies. Color Marketing Group, as Carol spoke about early on, I'm a board of directors member for Color Marketing, and I really believe in the color marketing philosophy that what you put into it, you really get back. It's a great way to network. Color Marketing has and I'll share this with you at the end of the presentation, they have a newsletter, and also they're involved in social media, so you can track them at no cost and get some of the insight into the color that is being forecasted. Color Marketing is a nonprofit, and they also have something they call chromosomes, which are color workshops. They facilitate all over the United States, and if you get on colormarketinggroup.org, you can track if there's a chromosome in your area, and it's very inexpensive to attend. It's a one-day workshop that you really get a lot out of it. And there's also, we have NKBA. We have what Carol puts together with the Marble Institute. So there's really a great resource of information out there for outside agencies. Think about all the agencies that I have listed on the page. Sphere Trending, Color Marketing Group, I have a list of other resources that I'll share with you after the presentation. Trend Curve, they all have either free blogs or free newsletters that you can track at no cost. So even if you can't afford to pay an outside agency for any kind of trend data, you can still take advantage of some of their insight and some of their direction on their newsletters and on their social media sites. The one thing with the paid agencies, though, that you really need to be cautious of is you still need to validate any information that you receive from them in your own market and in your own product category. Next, we're going to talk about specialty publications. This is really a great way for you to, again, just get a quick snapshot of what's going on in your market. So think about some of the big ones, like some of my favorites are Elle Decor, Metropolis, Wired, and InStyle. And then I always track local publications as well. Think about some of the local builders in your area. On the screen, I have some of the large publicly traded builders, Pulte, Lennar, KB Homes, things like that. But think about smaller builders in your area, and even think about how you can maybe partner up with them to get even more specific segment data. What are they doing that's different? What are they doing that customers are gravitating toward? Kind of create some of that awareness and some of that alignment with your local builders. The next one, my favorite one, is think about where you go. Think about, let's say you're going to go to a trade show in a different city. Immerse yourself into that city. So if you're going to go to a trade show in Las Vegas, let's say, don't just go from your hotel room to the convention show floor. Try to visit some local eateries, some local shops. Try to immerse yourself in that culture and see what's different. If we're residential or commercial designers, really that line between commercial and residential, we see continuing to erode and kind of blur out. Really, we're seeing commercial influencing residential and residential influencing commercial spaces. So restaurants, retail, boutique hotels. I've even made it a point not to stay at larger chains anymore. If I have to travel for business, I'll try to find a small boutique hotel just to feel the difference of how they decorate, how they present themselves, from their marketing all the way down to their product. So keep your eyes peeled and always travel. It's so easy for us now to always travel with our cameras now that we all have smartphones, but don't be afraid to whip that camera out. I can't tell you how many photos I take on a daily basis. The next thing that I just wanted to put out there again, really, that's the brief overview of where to track, but you really need to try to establish your own path of how you're going to track. The one thing I will note, though, as you go to trade shows and visit different news facets and things, make sure that you track the same site, your same sources of news, your same websites, and the same booths when you go to trade shows. Make sure you have a path and you visit those same sources every year. That doesn't mean that you can't add new ones. I would encourage you to do that. But by tracking the same ones on a monthly or a yearly basis, that establishes your path. You can see those gentle shifts and subtle shifts, where if you don't track the same ones every year, you might not see that. So that allows you to track the subtlety. So I would encourage you to, once you establish that path, stick with it for at least a period of time. It might evolve as you grow and as your trend tracking skills grow, but it's really important to stick with those initial followers early on. Ooh. Next, we're going to get into a little bit more of how to track trends. So really, when we talk about asking questions, always ask yourself, how does this affect design? How do all of these different news stories, how are they affecting me as a designer, and how are they going to affect my customers in the way that they interact with me, or the way they shop, or the way they feel about design? So we always need to be connecting the dots and drawing conclusions and validating our hypothesis, like validating our research. So some of the ways that we do that, we keep data. So we talk about taking pictures. So I probably download my photos on a monthly basis, probably not as often as I should. And then I keep lots of notes. So I used to keep a lot of paper files back in the day. I'm dating myself a little bit. I still do kill a couple trees. I'm ashamed to say that I do still have some paper files. But right now, I break up my categories as what you see on the screen. If I have big picture drivers, macro trends, micro trends, and then I keep specific files on demographics, and then color, and then special effects. Special effects is more sheen level, it's maybe metallic. That's a little bit different, I think, in my category of flooring and also in some of our interior finishes. Right now, sheen and having that matte versus shine, or the mix of both, is really an important trend that we all need to pay attention to. So, and one of the reasons I track demographics specifically, I'm working on a couple different presentations that have to do with certain demographic ages, like Gen Z is our younger group coming up, so I'm tracking them specifically. And then in opposition to that, I'm tracking also how aging affects design. So anything that I'm seeing on baby boomers or aging in place, or I'm pulling data on that and just kind of throwing it in a file. That doesn't mean I go over that file. I normally skim the article really quickly if I find a great nugget, and I'll just throw it in a file. And then I try to purge those files every 6 months and get rid of data that is maybe duplicate or data that I don't need any longer. The same thing with my photos. I try to purge those probably about once a year, and I'll pull specific photos that relate to certain projects into a different file. The upkeep can be a little bit arduous, but it's really having everything digital versus those old paper files has really simplified the whole process. And again, you really have to establish your own path and your own filing system. Make sure that you can access your files very easily, and then set your own cadence of when you'll update your files, and make sure that your files aren't stagnant. Ooh. So we just had it, there we go. Make sure your files aren't stagnant, that you're continuing to keep them evolving. And as you see trends changing, and as you see data kind of continuing to shift, make sure that you're shifting along with it. The next thing we're going to get into is who to track. So think about, again, that funnel that we spoke about earlier. You have your global companies or your global information. Think about who you're going to track specifically in the States or North America, in your geographic location. So Tarkett is located in Northeast Ohio. So I normally track Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Indianapolis, down into West Virginia. So that's kind of my region that I track. And then think about your local level. At your local level, you might have a lot of differentiation between what you'll track locally and what you'll track globally. So, and think about, mixing that up. So if you're a higher end manufacturer or a higher end retailer, you should know what's going on both at your level and then at mass, and then at the value level as well. So again, thinking back to the early years in my career, that gap between your couture and the value end of your product category was huge. You can definitely see the how wide that gap was. Where now that gap has really truncated down. So it's often subtleties that will differentiate a value product from a higher end product. Just from an aesthetic standpoint, definitely materials and those more robust details will be different, but just from a subtle glance, often that gap is hard to spot. Also, if you're strictly residential, you should really have a pulse on what's going on in commercial design market, and the same goes if you're a commercial designer. You really should know what's going on residentially, because as I said, with Tarkett, us being very big in both market segments, commercial and residential, we're seeing both of them kind of influencing each other, and those lines are most definitely blurring. So this is a little bit more specific to my path and what related industries I track. So if you're in a showroom, think about the products that will help support your overall room story. So if you are, if it's countertops, think about what else is going to be in a kitchen and bathroom. You're going to need flooring, you might need furniture, you might need cabinetry, and you might need appliances. So those are always good things to track. And you should also look at your own competition. So, think about I try not to get too hung up on head-to-head competition. Like I'll look at mostly, higher end or much lower end, because really you don't want to be a me too. You want to kind of push that envelope and create your own path. For me, wall covering I find is very closely related to flooring material. So that's one that I track pretty closely, especially these days that texture is so important. I'll look at the tile industry to get new shapes and colors and textures. Furniture, we always track furniture because furniture is really your room anchor in most cases. We go to Furniture Market every year and track what's going on, not only in color, but in design, in scale, just to see what really, where that pendulum is swinging in furniture. We've seen the scale especially come down quite a bit over the past 6 or 7 years. And then think about tracking trends, again, outside of your industry. So inside your industry, very important, but outside, non-related, can often give you a lot of insight, especially into color and pop culture and different technology trends. So fashion is a big one, again, that I track quite a bit, from cosmetics to shoes, fast fashion, and then more kind of runway couture fashion. Jewelry is one that I found at KraftMaid. We used to develop decorative hardware that would get mounted on the cabinetry, and we found really a direct correlation with jewelry, fine jewelry and cosmetic jewelry, that when you would see kind of color shifts and design shifts in jewelry, you would see those same shifts happening in decorative hardware design. So same thing as you look at cosmetic trends. You would see cosmetic trends and fashion trends that would directly relate into interiors and the same kind of colors and textures going on in interiors. We've talked about automotive and most definitely technology in the past few slides, which are important to keep the pulse on. The other thing that we are looking at quite a bit is we do a lot of networking, which is so important. So if you're in a showroom setting, again, think about those materials that will help you to round out your interior space. So if it's a bathroom, if it's a kitchen, partner with other showrooms that are close in your geographic location. So maybe it's the cabinet showroom, maybe it's a company that sells appliances or wall covering. So think about trying, it not only helps you connect the dots for you as an individual and as a designer, it'll also help you connect the dots with your consumer. So think about your consumer. If they're coming to you strictly for one product that is within that interior environment, if you could help them and be a referral, establish your own referral network for other products, goods, and services that they're going to need, you will be an invaluable resource to all of your customers. So some of the networking that we do specifically, we talked about NKBA, we talked about MIA. I have a great rapport, and I'm really grateful for the relationship that I've established with Carol. And then think about other design affiliations. We have ASID and IIDA that we deal with quite a bit. NKBA is one that I'm affiliated with. We talked about Color Marketing Group. And then, like I said, just retailers. Retailers are probably going to be your best resource is at your local level, thinking about those partnerships that you can establish. One of the things that I began at Tarkett that's become really an invaluable resource to me and to our Tarkett team is we established a design share. So once a year, we get together with our peers from KraftMaid Cabinetry, from Formica Countertops, from Liberty Hardware, Delta Faucets, and Whirlpool Appliances, and we talk about trends, we talk about what products we're launching, and really the goal of this design share is just to make sure that we're all tracking on the same path. It's not to make sure that we have products that match each other's portfolio, but it's really just to make sure, okay, these are the trends we're tracking. Are you seeing the same things? It's consumer trends, it's product trends, it's big picture kind of macro trends, all the way down to the micro level, down to style trends. So, and that would be easy enough for you to establish a design share in your own local area, either with local retailers, or if you're at a manufacturing level, again, just think about those other partners that help to round out your product category. So with the design share partners that we have, really that's everybody, a lot of the big players that you would have that would help you complete a kitchen or a bathroom. So that's really where, where this partnership began. But think about forming your own design share in your local market. And then think about some of the, who you want to track outside your local industry or your industry itself. Apple, I know that one's a little bit tired because everybody talks about Apple and how they've really set technology and also, color on its ear. But think about when they launched back in 2012, they launched a lot of these great metallic colors, rose gold, they launched a gold, a silver, space gray. That was really a tipping point when we saw a lot of metallics and a lot more metallics coming into play. Think about even now. You're seeing so much more gold in the industry. Rose gold is still very, very prevalent. And then you see your silvers, like your stainless and your chrome, that's never going to go away. So think about a couple other different retailers or different areas that you would like to track. So Taco Bell was one that we were tracking from a marketing standpoint because they had one of the highest levels of millennial consumer engagement of any other brand. So they were on a daily basis giving a millennial word of the day. They were offering coupons. They were just blowing up on Twitter and Snapchat. So they were one of the first companies that, from a fast food company, that allowed you to do online ordering and then pay via, Apple Pay and, Google Pay, things like that. So think about other brands that are really doing things in an innovative way and see how you can parlay some of those different strategies into your own business plan. The other one that we're tracking was Tesla because they were pushing so much innovation into their products, and they were also their sales model, their direct sales instead of a traditional franchise model. And they were doing this because they wanted to control their brand experience, which from a marketing standpoint is huge. So think about not only your products, but how consumers will interact with both you and your product. What kind of experience are you giving? Are you providing? The next one that we were tracking from a millennial standpoint was Dress Barn. And instead of Dress Barn, they were going through, I was tracking about a year ago that they were doing a complete brand overhaul, and they were even thinking about changing the name. And it was interesting as they debuted their new brand image last year. They're targeting more of a younger demographic, more kind of our Gen X and our younger millennial demographic. But instead of changing their brand and changing their name, they wanted to keep their brand equity. And so they just started to have fun with their name. And a lot of their advertisements were geared around taking, these kind of high fashion photos with farm animals. And so they were kind of upgrading their image, but still having fun, a little bit at their own expense. So like some of the ads, don't let the name fool you. So it's, just again, looking at some of those companies who is doing it well. I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how I parlayed my trend tracking knowledge into product. Now this is back in 2009. We weren't really seeing a lot of discussion about blue as a color, and I saw kind of this really a beautiful kind of inky blue on the runway in 2009 in couture fashion. Then in that next year, at 2010 at the auto show, we saw a lot of luxury automotive manufacturers. It was Audi, it was Mercedes, BMW. They all launched some color of this kind of dark blue, this inky blue color. And then at that same time, we saw it emerging in high-end fashion, not in couture, but kind of in your higher end, like Saks Fifth Avenue type retailer. Then in 2011, it was moving, we saw it emerging in fast fashion, and it was in mainstream automotive, like Ford and Chrysler, Kia, and it also started to pop up in housewares and interior decor. And at that point, we knew, okay, that we're good. We're good to go with this one. It's become a mainstream. It's a staple. And we had been working on that blue color since about 2009. It had a few evolutions, and we did tweak it along the way. But we launched at KraftMaid, we called it Midnight in 2012, which is a blue color that's still very much a staple. And really, that trend hasn't shifted. We still see navy blue and that dark inky blue being a trend for at least the next 5 to 7 years. The next one that I wanted to point out to you was this gold trend. And again, in 2009, we started tracking this. We saw it emerging in jewelry. And we also, from our design share data with Delta Faucet Company and also Liberty Hardware, they saw an uptick in some of their gold sales. And so we continue to track it. We launched at KraftMaid, we called it Champagne Bronze in 2014. And it was not long, it was soon after Apple debuted the iPhone in their bronze color as well. Now with this product, we were probably a little bit early because when we went to visit Furniture Market this past fall of 2015, this bronze, this gold tone was everywhere. But with launching in 2014, initially we did not have it took a while for this color, for this product to actually catch on. So we're going to talk a little bit about the education of design next, and that's something that we really need to be aware of. Oh. Okay, getting back to our...
What about the button that says resume slideshow?
There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, and again, we're going to talk just a little bit more about establishing your own path of who your influencers are going to be. So think about the people or the companies that affect your product and your marketing or your sales strategy. So figure out what those companies are doing and then do it better. So next we're going to talk a little bit about the selling of design. This might be a little bit of a new concept. Selling of design, when you think about design, it's tricky because it's subjective. Everybody has an opinion, and everybody's opinion on design is different. And there's really no right answer in many cases when it comes to design. So we've already talked about the where, the how, the who, and now it's time that we need to kind of pull it all together and to use what you've learned. So with KraftMaid, we used to have on our website, it was called Ask the Designer. We have something very similar at Tarkett where consumers can send you a question, and then us as design staffers would actually answer their design question, their product need, whatever it may be. And it always amazes me that most people really do know what they like. They just need validation. They need validation that their vision is correct, and they often want to share their ideas. There's not many people that are completely oblivious and don't know what to do. So it's really up to us to validate our design decisions of our customers, give them guidance and reassurance that they're on the right path. So one of the other things that we need to think about from a designer standpoint is think about the coordination of our product. So if you are, again, if it's more of if you're selling or coordinating, if it's a countertop or if it's floor tile, wall tile, think about the other things that are going to go with that product. So it's not about just your path for today, it's about knowing what's coming next. Here at Tarkett, we often call it launch and love. We want to launch a product, and then we want to give our consumers and our designers ways that they can use it. We want to inspire them on how they can use this product. We don't want to launch it and then leave it, just throw it out in the marketplace and then walk away. It's continually educating and continually giving feedback. The other thing about selling design is you sell your vision based on the data. So if you are a designer for a manufacturer, you definitely need to sell any kind of new product based solely on qualitative data and quantitative data. But you can do the same thing if you're a designer at a showroom and you're trying to sell a consumer. So think about how you're selling your story. We all know how visual people are today. Look at Pinterest. Look at how, look at our own website. Then most designers now it's less words and it's more visual. So think about how you can creatively and visually tell your story. It can be storyboards. It can be the old school storyboards where you're actually, taking real product and putting together a coordination story. It can be a story based on just creative storytelling. Tell how you developed this product or how you came about selecting this product. Is it based on your consumer's insight or the background that you got from your consumer? Maybe they talked about how they love kind of clean and crisp, so you selected a white. Maybe they talked about how they love the outdoors, so you picked a wood tone. So make sure that you tell the story of why you made the selections that you made, because that can often kind of put your design over the top of selling it, selling the coordination, selling the longevity of the product, that that this trend is going to be solid for at least the next 7 or so years. Tell the advantages of the selections that you made. Why did you pick a white? And also think about the advantages. So you really need to not only sell your design, but you also need to, in a way, you're selling yourself, and don't sell your creativity short. So just a couple more slides before we finish up here. This is the one that I really wanted to key in on. So when you think about a trend, this is one that I call the trend curve. Really, there's a different rate of adoption of trends depending on where you are, both geographically and just based on your own product. So a quick story, I was at a multi-family conference in Wichita last spring. And it was funny, in Wichita, as designers, we've been talking about the gray story and the gray product trend for years. And in Wichita, in the multi-family market where they were building apartments and senior housing and things like that, they had just started to adopt gray into their interiors just that past season. So they were, even though that we'd been talking about it for such a long time, that region maybe had a slower adoption curve than, say, New York or Los Angeles. So think about where you're at on your own trend curve. So if we're talking about gray again, for example, one of the things that we do when we're talking to a lot of our big clients is we'll kind of give them the trend curve for gray, let's say, but then I'll put a separate arrow to, well, this is where we feel this product is on your trend curve. So you still have quite an uptick before you reach mass, and then you can have years of longevity at mass. So often when we present new products, we get our retailers, and we'll get other manufacturers excited about what we're showing, but we need to make sure that we're presenting that product when it's going to be the right time for them. So when I'm considering some of our big box customers, they might not be ready for a gray concrete look in flooring quite yet. So that's something that, even though our buyers are excited about it, their consumers, it might be a little bit too early, and we make sure that we try to educate them onto when is the best time to pull the trigger, because we want to make sure it's good for them, and what's good for them will definitely be good for us. So it's about, again, that education. And then lastly, when you think about selling a design, don't sell yourself short. It's amazing that by working with a designer, it saves consumers so much money. And that's something that you should really put out there a lot more than what designers do currently. I have a colleague that works for a company in the Midwest, and she was doing a lot of work with baby boomer clients, and she wasn't getting a lot of interaction with millennials, with our younger clientele. And she put together, she had one millennial client that she targeted and helped gather resources around, referrals from this millennial client. She had a mixer, kind of an evening mixer, invited all these these younger millennials over that were referrals from her initial client. And she told them that she would save them, if they were doing a design project, she would save them money by using her as a designer. And one of the things she did was she saved them, she promised them that she would save them money on both products and both on their time. And when you think about it, all of us, time is money. So she was able to, from that initial meeting, she received 10 millennial clients. And the one great thing about millennials is they're very big on social media. So those 10 millennial clients talked about their experience and how wonderful it was, and how how she was able to save them money. And now her business is completely flip-flopped to being mostly baby boomer clients to now she has mostly millennial clients. And one of the things that she had targeted was it is not expensive to hire a designer. That if she's going to do all the legwork for you, she is going to source products that the millennial client would provide her an inspiration, and she would often find a product that was less expensive. So saving both time and money. And she's had just an incredible turnaround of her business just based on the selling of herself and the selling of her design practices. So at the end of your presentation, and hopefully Carol will be able to send this to you separately, I have a bunch of different blogs that I currently follow. These are all free blogs that you can log on. You'll get daily, sometimes weekly alerts that will just give you a little bit of a snapshot of what's going on in the interior design community. And then I also put design and trend websites. We talked about spear trending early on, color marketing. WGSN is one that is a paid site, but they also have a free newsletter that you can log on to. The Trend Curve and the Trend Tablet, same thing. These are all paid sites, but you can follow them on social media, and they also have a free newsletter that you can follow. And we also have our own Tarkett design blog, which is at the very bottom, Tarkett NA /Trending with Tracy, that we would love for you to follow. And then I also included some key insights into trend tracking, what, why, and how. So knowing history, just keeping your eyes open, always looking, always questioning. And there's a couple different insights in there that I'm sure Carol will share with you, just so you have a little bit of a takeaway. I know we're kind of at time, but if there's any questions, I would love to answer those for you.
If you have access to your panel, you can put your questions or type your questions in a question box. Also want to bring your attention to the handout box. The notes that the last 3 slides or last 4 slides that Tracy just mentioned is available via the handout box, so you can download it now, or you can download it after the presentation. The one thing that just want to note to most of the folks on the participants on the webinar, Tracy referenced designer, and she talks about being a designer, but whether or not you're in sales or marketing, I think some of the same principles apply, and the same takeaway apply that you can adapt to when dealing with your customers on a daily basis. And so far I don't see any questions coming in. We'll give it another couple seconds, and in the meantime I just want to say thank you to Tracy for your time. Really appreciate it. And Tracy will be hosting or giving another presentation for us next month. So be on the lookout for that if you really enjoyed this one. Feel free to sign up, tell a friend, and we'll share the information with you via email. We have a question here, not seeing handout tab for download, where should I be looking? If you're looking on your little panel, if you don't see it, I'll email it to everyone that's on this call, but if you're looking on your panel, there should be a tab that says handouts, 1 of 5, and there's a little plus sign. If you click the plus sign, you should be able to access the handout. So if we don't have any more questions, it's right at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock. We'll sign off here and say thank you to Tracy. Really appreciate your time, Tracy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.